Good evening, everyone, on this Friday, October 16th, 2015. Check out this nutty shirt I'm wearing. I got this at a store that sells brand name clothing that's unsellable under its brand name because it has some sort of minor defect or whatever. So you get brand name shirts that only have like a really minor cosmetic defect for pretty affordable prices. Anyway, I got this shirt. I quite like the design on it. Funny thing is, I got it several months ago, and just this morning I go to put it on, getting ready for school, and all of a sudden, just so randomly, it popped into my mind. It's Illuminati on this shirt. Anyway, I'm filming today with the Canon PowerShot SX130, my digital camera, just to see how that works. And I think, using a solid state video recorder over my 8mm, one of my 8mm camcorders will make the time it takes to actually get the video to my laptop much quicker, which might make it possible to actually get this Friday vlog on YouTube on Friday. Excuse me. You see me looking down here. I'm using, of course, the problem with this digital camera is, of course, the display is fixed on the back of the camera, so I can't actually see if I'm in frame or whatever. So down here I've got a device which I'm using as a viewfinder. It'll be the subject of a future The Maritime Man video, and it's totally awesome. Anyway, it's making a good viewfinder right now, but yeah, I can't wait to show you guys this in a future video. It may or may not be creating a 10 kilohertz whine, so I'm gonna shut it off, and hopefully that didn't mess up the camera, and it'll keep me from being distracted looking at that as well. Couple of things to talk about this week. This week at school has been quite possibly the most exhausting week of my entire university career. There's it's the same old stuff, just so many assignments and other stuff to do. Of course, this is the first week after the Thanksgiving long weekend, so at least it was a short week, only a 4-day week, but my God, there was so much to do this week. And something that happened this week, which happens to me once in a while, is that I turned partially nocturnal. Starting a couple of days ago, I started sleeping in the daytime and being awake all night. It's just how it works. I stay up all night getting work done, and I go to school the next day, and as soon as I get home from school at like 2:30 or 5:30 if I have a lab, I go straight to bed, and I sleep until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm awake all morning and into the next day. Excuse me again, I just ate supper. So as an example, today, right now, I have been awake since 11:30 last night. So it's 8:30 p.m. right now. So I've been awake for 21 hours, 21 consecutive hours. So I'm doing all right. I don't feel particularly dead. So hopefully I can stay awake until 10 or 11 o'clock, go to bed then, and get up at a decent time tomorrow to continue slaving away at work. And unfortunately, next week is going to be as hard, if not harder, because next week is midterm week. Woohoo! I have like 3 or 4 midterms next week, as well as a couple of reports that are due. Oh man, it's going to be hard. I'll just do what I can do, and hopefully it goes all right. I'm keeping my head above water so far, I think, anyway. Kind of cool, if you go to apple.com, I don't know the URL, but if you go to Apple's homepage, and I believe you can just click on the Mac section of the page. Wait for it to load here. Click on Mac. Yeah, so you go on Mac, click on iMac. They just introduced new iMacs that have like 4K and 5K displays and all that crap. So you click on iMac, and if you scroll, I believe, to the bottom, oh, where was it? I saw it this morning. 4 gigahertz. I didn't know Intel's processors, Intel even reached 4 gigahertz now. I thought the fastest, be quiet, I thought the fastest was still 3.8 gigahertz, the Pentium 4, the highest clock speed. Where is it? They had this really cool thing where they compared the current iMac to the original 1998 iMac. It's gone. I don't know where it went. Anyway, I believe the page was called iMac Then and Now. So I'm Googling that. I'm Googling iMac Then and Now. Yes, and the first link there. What's the URL? The URL is apple.com/iMac/then-and-now. And it's a really neat page. It says, say hello to progress, and it talks about how in 1998, the original iMac basically reinvented the personal computer. It most certainly did. It also reinvented Apple and saved them from bankruptcy. Yeah, it's really neat. It talks about, you know, how much more powerful the current iMac is to the original. 14 million more pixels. I don't know how they measured that, because the original iMac has a CRT display, so the resolution's variable. They probably went by 800 by 600 or something like that. 62,000 times faster graphics, 1,000 times more RAM. The original iMac had 32 megabytes of RAM. The current iMac does not come with 32 gigabytes of RAM. Maybe you can configure it to be like that, but I assume it ships with 8 standard, so I don't know why they've done that. I don't know if the current iMac can even be upgraded that high to 32 gigabytes. Maybe it can. Anyway, so yeah, I think they might be exaggerating these numbers. It says 750 times more storage. Well, I know the original iMac had, or not know, I think it had a 4.3 gigabyte hard drive. So multiply that by 750. You get 3.2 terabytes. Does the original iMac really have 3.2 terabytes of hard drive space? 366 times more processing power. I would indeed believe that. And it's got a cool photo of the original iMac and the current iMac sitting beside each other. It's really neat. Let me look at the specs for the current iMac. I don't think it has 3.2 terabytes hard drive space or 32 gigs of RAM. Or perhaps you can configure it that way. Tech specs. Up to 16 gigabytes of RAM. So if it had 1,000 times more memory, that would mean the original iMac had 16 megabytes of RAM. It didn't, it had 32. Up to 2 terabytes of hard disk storage. So it wasn't, what did it say, 750 times more more hard drive space, 2,000 divided by, I think it was 4.3. It would be 400, a little over 400 times more. So they've exaggerated the numbers. I don't know if there was any rhyme or reason to it, or if they just chose random good-looking numbers out of the blue. I don't know. Anyways, it's a cool page nonetheless. So that's pretty neat. And last for tonight, I've caught calculator fever again. In the last vlog, I talked about the article regarding the Texas Instruments TI-83 Plus calculator and how 16 years after its introduction, it's still the most powerful, the most popular graphing calculator on the planet. And I talked about, it's powered by a Zillig Z80 microprocessor, and you can program it in assembly, and I entertained the thought of getting one just to program assembly in it. That'd be kind of neat. And while I was looking at Texas Instruments graphing calculators, I discovered that just a few months ago, Texas Instruments came out with a new graphing calculator. It is called the TI-84 Plus CE, and it is the sexiest calculator I've ever seen. It's so cool. It's the successor to the TI-84 Plus C Silver Edition, which is basically a TI-84 Plus Silver Edition with a color display, a 320 by 240 16-bit color display, and it has support to draw color graphs and stuff like that, but it's still based on the old-fashioned user interface that debuted on the original Texas Instruments TI-81, their first graphing calculator. And this new calculator is pretty much similar. It has the color display, but it's based on the same old hardware and software that debuted on the TI-81. It's a Zillig Z80 processor, however a very fast one running at 50 megahertz, and it's running the same old user interface. Using it is almost exactly the same as using any classical Texas Instruments graphing calculator. And how it differs from the TI-84 Plus C Silver Edition is that it's a lot slimmer, and there's a couple of other minor differences, but other than that, it's very similar to its predecessor. And as a whole, it's very similar to just about every Texas Instruments graphing calculator, with the exception of the Nspire series. And it's just a really beautiful calculator. Not only beautiful in and of itself, but beautiful in how well Texas Instruments has been able to incorporate 2015 era technology into a calculator that is already familiar. They've kept the same, how old is it now? The TI-81 came out in 1990, so 25 years. They've based it on 25-year-old hardware that, however, has been modernized into the modern age, because the original TI-81's processor ran at, I think, 6 megahertz. Well, this new one runs at 50 megahertz, so it's no slowpoke graphing and stuff. And they've based it on the same 25-year-old user interface, because why fix what isn't broken? So, you know, anyone who's ever used any Texas Instruments graphing calculator is going to be able to pick up this new one and use it immediately. The key layout is identical to that of the TI-84 Plus Silver Edition. And it's just a beautiful meld of modern technology without fixing what isn't broken, and that's what's so cool. Anyway, it's a really sweet looking calculator, and I want one so bad, but it's a $120 unit right now, so probably not going to be anytime soon, maybe a few years down the road, but damn, I want one someday. And you can still program them in assembly, Z80 assembly, just like all the old Texas Instruments graphing calculators. But you know, it's got these new features, the ability to graph in color, and stuff like that. And it's got a ton more memory than the TI-84 Plus Silver Edition. And yeah, just a beautiful calculator. I'm really glad whenever I see a company come out with a product that, you know, that moves forward in technology, but it doesn't try to outdo itself. It doesn't fix what isn't broken and introduce all this gimmicky stuff and all that. Just stick with what works and add stuff that can make it better. That's exactly what they've done. They've taken what works and just added little by little to make it even better. Anyway, I'm rambling, but really sweet calculator. I really like what they've done with it. I'm hoping someday I can get my hands on one. If I ever do, I'll definitely review it on YouTube, even though by then it'd probably be several years old and not worth reviewing anymore, but whatever. That's not all for calculator fever. I've also been, I've always known about programmable calculators, especially the stereotypical landscape ones that, you know, have the QWERTY keyboard on them and you can program BASIC or whatever in them. I've always known about them, but I've never had such a big interest in them. Well, now that I'm learning this programming, it's assembly right now, but you know, programming in general, I've started gaining an interest in programmable calculators. And I've been looking at just, you know, pictures and info and stuff on the old, you know, landscape format QWERTY keyboard programmable calculators that Casio and Sharp and Texas Instruments have made over the years. And to be honest, I'd really like to get a Casio programmable calculator someday, either an FX850P or an FX880P. They were sold in the late 1980s, because they're just really cool calculators. They can be programmed in BASIC, and they're just a really nice machine, and I'd kind of like to get one and learn how to program it in BASIC and maybe use it for useful stuff. But unfortunately, First of all, they were never really popular in North America. They were popular in foreign countries, so there aren't very many of them on eBay, and unfortunately they are collectible, so what ones do show up on eBay are like 150, 200 bucks. So that is unfortunately too bad, but maybe someday, many years down the road, I'll have one. Be kind of cool, or maybe I'll lose interest, I don't know. In my research though, I found something very interesting. In the 1980s and 1990s, Casio manufactured several programmable calculators for the Japanese education market, and they can be programmed in C. That's really interesting. I've never heard of a programmable calculator that can be programmed in C. The C that is implemented on these calculators is slightly different than ANSI standard C, but it is mostly the same. And yeah, I've never heard of that. They were only sold in Japan for Japanese schools, because they teach C in Japanese schools. So yeah, kind of interesting. Too bad we never got anything like that here in North America. Although perhaps it just would have been a big flop, not very popular at all. Anyway, yeah, I've been really into calculators again recently, and that's about it. So I think that's all for this vlog tonight. Oh, I got my first bus thing uploaded, so that went all well and good. So there will be more of those to come every once in a while. And I'm almost done editing and getting ready to render the next video on the main channel. It'll be a look at the PowerBook G4 that I saved from the e-waste pile. Almost done editing that. I might or might not get it uploaded over the weekend, but we'll see there. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching and listening, and have a good weekend, and I'll see you later.